job, and we talked about this last night, our job is we're not in control of the outcomes. When you're sitting here saying, I'm planting this seed to get this in this amount of time, and it's going to look like this, this is how much I'm going to get. You're
Welcome to the Howie and Beastmode podcast, where we discuss all things business, including growth, strategy, and execution, as well as personal and professional development. Let's join Howie and Beastmode in conversation.
So I'm going to talk about something that's been heavy on my heart, which you've probably heard intermingled in many of our podcast sessions, and that's branding. And so I know that we're going to have an audio portion of this, but we're also going to have the YouTube portion of this. So I'm going to walk through a PowerPoint. And so if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify or somewhere else, you can go grab that PowerPoint there. That way you can see some of what we're talking about. But we're really just going to cover a couple of items. And it's really the personal and branding aspects and how they commingle, how they work together. Is it okay if they do that? And the answer ultimately that we're going to get at is yes. Okay. And so how ultimately do we do that? And we're going to start from the beginning of how we do that. All right. So here's our PowerPoint. So our first slide that we're going to talk about real quick is really, we're looking at a couple of big brands. Now these numbers are a little older from 2010 to 2014, but we're looking at the top 10 from 2010 to 2014. And what we're seeing is a lot of the same brands staying the same. And so again, if we look at number one in 2010 was Coca-Cola, and they had a brand value of 70 million. And then we see them drop to number 3 in 2014. Well, their brand value increased to 80. Actually, it's 80 billion. Sorry, not 70 million. It's 70 billion. They increased to 80 billion, but they dropped to number 3. And we're going to talk about why that is later. We see McDonald's at number 6 with 33 billion, and they stay at number 6. And again, their brand value increased to 42 billion. So they're increasing in value. It's not like they're going stagnant or they're going backward, but yet they're not going up the ladder. They're not increasing. We see from 2010 to 2014, obviously we see a new number one, which is Apple at 108 billion, but they weren't even on the list in 2010. We see Amazon, obviously nowadays Amazon's gonna be much higher, but they were on the list in 2010 and they're on the list in 2014. And so what is that? How's that change occurring? What can we look at that? We go look at another version of the similar things from 2001 to 2019. This one's showing more of a pie graph on showing more of what's eating up the most of the pie in brand value. And what we're seeing is again very similar. We're seeing a lot of name brands that we recognize, like Coca-Cola, like McDonald's, like Microsoft. But then what happens is when you see the shift from 2001 to 2019, you're seeing things that are not even on the map. They're now all of a sudden taking up the entire portion of the pie. Google's not even on the 2001, and it's taking up a very large chunk. Same thing with Apple. Same thing with Amazon again. And you see large brands from 2001 to 2019, and their share is decreasing, even though their value may be increasing, as we saw and we talked about a second ago. Your value may be increasing, okay, personally in business, but you may not be taking more of a chunk of the pie. And we're going to talk about why that is, okay? So really, what is branding, right? So a brand is the sum total of someone's experience with you. That's the definition that we're going to work off today. So a brand, your personal brand, your business brand, it's the sum total of someone's experience with you, with your business, with your product, okay? Branding is the exercise through which you try to articulate what that experience is. So we want to talk about branding. And so what we want to talk about, or what we want to exercise, is we want to articulate what that experience is going to be like. What is it going to be like if somebody comes and hangs out with you personally? That's your personal brand. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What are you going to do? What are you going to talk about? The business brand, your product, your service, your idea. The branding is articulating what it is. Okay, you got a really great cybersecurity product. Well, great. Well, your branding is articulating what does that experience look like? Does it look like a headache? Does it look like peace of mind? Does it look like comfort? That's what branding is talking about. If you got a restaurant, right, and we want to talk about your food, well, great. You know, if you spend the entire time talking about the food, but it doesn't talk about my experience. It doesn't say that I'm satisfied. It doesn't say that it's cost effective. It doesn't say that I'm in and out. It doesn't say that. So again, this is part of the issue with branding. Is oftentimes we're talking about the product, we're talking about the idea, or we're talking about the service. But what we need to be talking about is your experience with the product, the service, the idea. Okay. Okay, the why. Oh, again, I got a clever quote for each one of these. And so again, it's Albert Einstein. You do not really understand something unless you can explain it to your grandma. The why. Why do we need to focus on branding? Why do we need to worry about our brand? It's because it clarifies our mission and our purpose. Without branding, personal and business, okay, you cannot clarify your mission and purpose in life. You cannot clarify your mission, purpose in your business. Branding creates vision carriers. So whenever I share my business, if I share my idea, my creativity, what we're handling, it creates people that want to buy in, that want to say, hey, I want to come to your restaurant. Hey, I really enjoy the way that you do business development. I want to be a part of that. Branding is what creates that. Branding also guides customers. So whenever you're branding, you're talking about these experiences, and you're saying, this is what it's going to be like if you do business with us. This is what it's going to look like if you come and eat at our restaurant. What it does is it guides customers to the avenue of where you want to engage them, how you want to engage them. David Breyer says, if you don't give the market the story to talk about, they'll define your brand story for you. Now that is heavy hitting. Okay, if I don't give the story, then quite frankly, the market or my competitor will give my brand, personally or business, will give them my story for me. We need to take the initiative and give them our story. So in 2016, it was estimated by the Association of National Advertisers, the brand spending had again increased to an all-time high of $600 million annually in the United States. It's projected to exceed $750 million by 2020. 59% of an average marketing and advertising budget is specifically allocated to branding. This is why these numbers right here is why we're talking about branding. This is why it should be brought up in so many conversations. It's because of the weightiness of how much it's involved in everything that we do. So Sir Richard Branson says, branding demands commitment to continual reinvention. If you go back and we look at those first couple of slides again, some of those brands that are growing just mainly because they have name value, the reason why they're not growing more rapidly or maintaining their shares because they're not committed to reinvention. Okay? Striking chords with people to stir their emotions and commitment to imagination. Now, I don't want to pick on too many brands here, but I will pick on a couple. And one that really just kind of grinds my gears is McDonald's. They're not commitment to reinventing. They're committed to reacting. They're not committed to imagination. They're committed to maintaining a certain share of population. Now, they do a good job of what they do, but they're not breaking their mold. It's easy to be cynical about such things, but it's harder to be successful. And that's Sir Richard Branson. So what does the customer think or see regarding your branding? Oftentimes we want to focus on a logo. We want to focus on something, okay? And again, is it important? Is it valuable to spend time, to spend money evaluating a logo? Yes, it is. But a logo, again, if we go back to our definition of branding, The logo doesn't necessarily walk me through the experience of experiencing your restaurant, of experiencing your product, your service, your idea. It doesn't do that. Is it something that helps with brand identity? Yes. Yes, it is. But it is not the end all be all. And quite frankly, when people have the misnomer that branding is a logo, you're missing it. And so another quote here by Simon Mainwaring is the keys to brand success are self-definition, transparency, authenticity, and accountability. Now, if you're a listener of Howie Beastmode, you will understand that we talk about transparency, authenticity, and accountability pretty much on every episode. Self-definition, we probably coin it as self-awareness. And again, I bring that up quite a bit just because that's something that's heavy on my heart. Okay, now branding is ultimately, the goal of branding is to create buy-in. Now there's 7 key characteristics that again, most of us have probably heard of. I'm gonna read through all of them, but I'm gonna touch on a couple specifically. Now our main takeaway that we wanna get at is people buy from people they trust, okay? People buy from people they trust. They don't buy from businesses they trust. They buy from people they trust. Now, ultimately, at the end of the day, when you go to McDonald's and you order your food, you're not ordering it from the business, you're ordering it from the person. So if that person's a jerk, they represent McDonald's, okay? And and we've all been there. We've had a bad experience with the person, and that person has now made us have a bad experience with that brand. So again, at the end of the day, we got to focus on people buy from people they trust. That's number 1, okay? People make purchases, decisions rooted as much in emotional impulses as they do in logical facts. So branding should kind of poke at emotional impulses, okay? We can't just go on facts. We can't just say ours is cheaper, okay? While that is helpful and it is beneficial, most people, again, the emotional impulse is much more valuable. Okay, buyers have egos. Okay, number 3, buyers have a greater commitment to fleeing losses than to seek gains. Okay, when you think about it, buyers have a greater commitment to fleeing losses. Am I losing out on this? Than they are to seek the gains. Am I going to win this decision? They don't want to lose. Buyers don't want buyer remorse. Okay, how do we do that? How do we make sure our buyers don't have buyer's remorse? We're going to get to that. Buyers are naturally suspicious. Everybody thinks that they're going to get the wool pulled over their eyes. Everyone thinks that the salesman is out to get them. We need to combat that. Our branding needs to talk against that. Number 5, buyers respond psychologically to visual elements in the stories. We want to invite everyone into the story, into the visual elements. We cannot just have dollars and cents. We cannot just have facts. Facts do not invite me into a story. Quite frankly, if you're just branding with facts, you're telling everyone that you don't have a story. Even though you do, you're telling everyone that you don't. Number 6, buyers crave value. So again, do buyers want a deal? Yes, they want a deal. But the value, again, we can assess value multiple different ways. And if you're just assessing value by dollars and cents, my product's $10, my competitor's product's $15, buy my product, you're missing the mark. Your competitor's product might be $15 because you only have to buy it once every 5 years, where your product you have to buy it every year. And so it's going to cost your buyer $50 in 5 years, where your competitor's $15 over the same period. And so again, we don't need to just rush to value. We need to rush into the emotional impulse. We need to seek all of these. Number 7, buyers travel in packs. Okay, they travel in packs. Have you ever had a bad experience when told somebody about it and told them never to go there again? Don't ever go there. If you ever go there, I'm never going with you again. Yes, they travel in packs. The same way, you have a great experience, people go tell. They want to take you there. Hey, this is the best chicken I've ever had. You need to come eat it with me. I'll pay for you to come have this chicken with me. We've all been there. Okay. So when you turn off one, you're turning off multiples. When you get one buy-in, you're getting multiple buy-ins, okay? That's a fact that you got to consider, okay? Let's go through some examples of branding experiences. So Starbucks, okay? So their branding, their motto, their logo, their mantra is to inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person, one cup, one neighborhood at a time. They're inviting you into the story. Can you see it? One person, one cup, one neighborhood at a time. They're gonna nurture your human spirit with their coffee. That sounds cool. I don't like coffee, but it sounds like something I'd like to participate in. Quite frankly, I often go sit at Starbucks just because of the experience. I don't like coffee. I like the smell. I'll never drink it, but I'll go sit there because I enjoy the experience. I won't go sit at a Dunkin' Donuts. There's not too many of them around where I live, but even if there were, the experience doesn't invite me in. Okay. Dunkin', and so again, one of the experiences, how do they do that? How do they do one person, one cup, one neighborhood at a time? Is they take the customer's name and they write it down. I've gone and asked for a water and they've written my name on the cup. Okay. Even though I'm not technically their customer, they still treat me like I am one. Dunkin' Donuts, okay. Their mantra is American runs on Dunkin's. Okay. And so again, they're considered many to be like fast food. They want to get you in and out. They want to get your cup of coffee and get you on to work. They want to get you the best value they can, the quickest way they can. And that's okay. That's okay. Okay. It really is. But you have to understand what you're saying, the examples of what the difference is. McDonald's says, I'm loving it. Okay. And you're really going to see kind of my pet peeves come out of here. What is it? What is it? What do you love? They're so focused on lower prices and increasing menu items that they fail to define the experience. Okay. Burger King, have it your way. Tell us what you want. And then one of the examples is the Impossible Burger. Okay. And so they're inviting you in. Again, I don't have a dog in the hunt for either one of these, but again, so Burger King's inviting you into a story of having whatever you want, have it your way. It doesn't matter what it is. You want something different, tell us, look, and you can have it your way. And so these are the differences in how they look and how they feel and what our message is, what our story is that we're inviting in. Personal branding. Okay. Mark Echo says, you too are a brand, whether you know it or not, whether you like it or not. And this is something that I stress to every person that I can talk to about branding. You're a brand, whether you want to be one or not, you are one. A couple examples that we're going to discuss specifically are Tiger Woods and Oprah, but here's Martha Stewart and Donald Trump was Celebrity Apprentice. But personal branding cannot escape business branding. Again, we talked about people do business with people. Personal brand is part of it. So when we talk about personal brand, we're talking about four main things. Cultivated personal brand sets you apart from your peers. Okay? From all those individuals who don't want their personal brand, they don't want it out there, they don't want to share it, they don't want to think about it, they want to pretend like it doesn't exist. When you cultivate your personal brand, it sets you apart. An established personal brand produces value. Okay? So whenever I cultivate my personal brand, and I have a brand, and I grow it and I fertilize and I prune it and I do these things, what it does is that it produces value, and now that value I'm able to bring to wherever I go. A recognized personal brand increases the floor of your career, right? So if I'm cultivating my personal brand, okay, I'm cultivating my followers, I'm cultivating who I'm connecting with and how I'm connecting with them, the message, getting it out there, then what it does is now whenever I go to another company, I'm bringing something with me, right? So I'm able to then take your business, your idea, your product, your service, and then go implement it directly to potential customers I already have, right? An elevated, so a personal brand is also an evaluated filter for your career and daily life. So if I have my personal brand that I've cultivated and evaluated, I know my mission and my vision and who my target audience is, and what it is it filters out what type of careers I should be looking at. Is this career fueling the personal brand? Is this daily life? Is this activity? Is this relationship? Is it fueling the personal brand, or is it taking it away? Dr. Sarah David says, personal branding is all about your unique promise of value and what you bring to the table. It's also about getting your potential clients to choose you as the only solution to their problem. So valuable. Businesses empowering you in the US. So there's two examples that we want to talk about here. One is Horst Schulze. Okay, he's with the Ritz-Carlton, and we want to talk about OtterBox. Now, these two examples, they're focused on personal branding. Horst Schulze gives every employee, every staff employee, he gives each one of them a weekend every year to go do vision casting. He wants their employees to not only know what their mission and vision is in life, but he wants them to empower them to work at the Ritz-Carlton and to utilize that mission and vision. And then ultimately, it's a filtering tool. If you don't want to do that, then you don't need to work at Ritz-Carlton. And if you're unable to do that, then it's an opportunity for him to help cultivate that inside of you. Okay, OtterBox does something very similar in how they're pouring back in to individuals and their personal brand. It's so valuable. And business owners, managers, supervisors, if you're not doing this, if you're not helping your staff, your peers cultivate a personal brand, you're missing an opportunity for, number one, to create buy-in to you and your business, but you're missing an opportunity to grow that individual into something more than what they were whenever you first met them. How do we empower and teach others to carry your brand? And it starts and ends with empathy. So we want to communicate our brand, communicate your brand using customers' words. Again, whenever we're talking, we need to be speaking in a way that our customers hear us. Oftentimes, we can get caught using vernacular. We can get caught using lingo that only translates to industry specific. And quite frankly, we're missing the mark. Okay, if we're talking if I'm talking like I'm talking to my staff in my branding, then what happens is my customers who aren't inside my building then are unable to fully translate our conversation. So I need to speak in their language. That's number one. I need to provide empathy to the team so the team will empathize with customers. Top down. So at the top, I need empathy to those who are already inside my building, carrying my vision, whether they're getting paid to or not. I need to provide empathy to them so that whenever they're going out and speaking to current, potential, and former customers, they are translating that empathy directly to them. They can't give what they don't receive. And so we need to make sure our team is receiving empathy. Two quotes here on this one. One's by Steve Cook. The brand is no longer what we tell the consumer it is what the consumers tell each other that it is. Again, if we go back and we miss the story portion of telling our customers what it is, then, and again, if we're not clear. So again, we may be telling a story, but if our story is not clear, whenever our customers or consumers then take that story that we told and they mistranslate it, or they take their experience and it's different than what we wanted to, then what they're going to translate that. They're not going to come back to what we initially said. So again, we got to be careful. Stephen Covey says, when you show deep empathy towards others, their defensive energy goes down and positive energy replaces it. That's when you get more creative in solving problems. It all starts with empathy. So here's our call to action. So Zig Ziglar says, you don't build a business, you build people, and then people build the business. Again, it's all about people. So here's our call to action. We need to invest in our brand as individuals, our individual brand. We have to invest in it. We have to take the time to post regularly on social media. We have to take the time to be personal. And again, I'm going to tell you this quite frankly, so directly. Personal does not mean family. It does not mean sharing your spouse's name and you guys had a fight. That is not personal branding. Personal branding says, hey, I failed today in my business call. Have you guys ever failed? Hey guys, I made the mistake and I want to be open and honest about this mistake I made. Have you guys ever made a mistake similar to this? Hey guys, I found an opportunity that changed my mind. I once thought this way and now I think this way. These are personal branding ideas and tactics that have nothing to do with my family and my kids and struggles that we're going through. It has nothing to do with that. Okay. Invest your brand into your business. Business branding is important and it's not a logo. Okay. Businesses invest in your brand. People. Smart businesses invest in their people and help them cultivate their brand. If your people, if your staff, if your employees don't see the value in personal branding, help them understand the values of personal branding. Whether they stay with you long term, whether you run a franchise McDonald's or whether you are an insurance sales, it doesn't matter. Help your staff understand their personal brand matters to them, and ultimately their personal brand matters to your business, which should matter to you. Businesses invest in branding. That's a blanket statement all the way across the board. Everything that we talked about today. Smart businesses, good businesses invest in branding. Now, this is a topic I could talk on for so much longer, but I just wanted to quick hit branding 101, Beastmode's thoughts on branding with you. Again, this PowerPoint will be available on the YouTube channel, and feel free to send back any thoughts, comments, objections, praises, whatever. We'd love to hear from you.
I would just go to the opposite perspective. So if I'm trying to focus on how I'm selling a customer, then I would go look at how are we being sold? Whatever we're being sold on, what do we not like whenever we get sold? How is that similar to what our customers feel?